Hello everyone, I'm Jasper from Rice Ravenclaw Robotics 11472, and today we're going to be on the first episode of the Wolfcat podcast.
I am Aditya Patel from Jasper Wolf's White 19897.
For those who haven't seen the FTC game, this is it. Because FTC makes a game every year, and it was released a week ago.
And 12 samples are positioned on the preset sample zones. Teams place their robots on the field, touching the sidewalls. Each robot can start the match with either one specimen or one sample. The field and players are now ready. The match begins with a 30-second autonomous period. During auto, robots may attempt to score using pre-programmed instructions and sensor inputs. Following auto is the 2-minute teleoperated period. Robots score using driver inputs. There are many ways to score during the auto and teleop periods. For example, scoring a sample into the net zone earns 2 points, and scoring a sample into the low basket earns 4 points, or 8 points for scoring into the high basket. Robots may bring alliance-specific samples to the observation zone. Human players can attach clips to the samples, turning them into specimens. Scoring a specimen on the low chamber earns 6 points, or 10 points if scored on the high chamber. Sample colors may be neutral or alliance-specific, but specimen colors must be alliance-specific. The last 30 seconds of the teleop period is the endgame. Robots may continue scoring, but have protected access to their ascent zones. Each robot contacting the low rung earns 3 points. If a robot achieves a low-level ascent, it earns 15 points. But a high-level ascent earns 30 points. When the match ends, a robot parked in the observation zone earns 3 points. There are many ways to score in Into the Deep, but there are also rules that, if not followed, will result in foul points being added to the opposing alliance's score. A robot cannot enter the observation zone if a human player is in that zone. Scoring elements may not be launched. During endgame, robots may not interfere with other robots in their alliance's ascent zone. This has been a summary of this season's game, Into the Deep, presented by RTX. For complete rules, please read the competition manual and check the Q&A forum. And always remember the most important rule of the first tech challenge: gracious professionalism. Good luck, teams, and have a spectacular season.
That was
And 12
this
samples.
year's season. So now we're going to discuss some basic thoughts that we had when we first watched
The
this
game we
video.
just saw is pretty cool, to be honest. And what our team, Rice Ravenclaw Robotics, is personally thinking of is, for the main scoring way that we should use, we should prioritize getting the samples into the high basket instead of taking the specimens and the clips together and then putting them on the rungs. The reason we thought of this is because we want more cycles, which will lead to more points accumulated if we have fast drivetrains and efficient scoring methods. Now on to Aditya.
So as for our thoughts on the Jasper side, the thing is, there's a very interesting element this season. You have to go for the lower rung, get off the ground, suspended in midair, before you can go to the higher rung. That is the interesting factor of this season that I feel is very difficult. The private teams' videos that I've seen so far on YouTube, they have not tried to attempt it for obvious reasons. It is very difficult because you have to get off the ground first before you can go for the higher rung. And also the fact that we've just started a week ago, so they won't be trying to do the complicated stuff right now. They're trying to get the basics done before they start expanding on the robots.
Since the season got released a week ago, we as a team during the meeting have decided on preliminary designs, which we will show because we display it visually through Onshape, which is a CADing software. So first we're going to start off with the Jaspers.
Okay, so for our freshman team, we created a CAD model for our first idea. We are yet to discuss this in our next meeting, but here in this CAD model, it has the basic Govilda Strafer chassis. We just replaced the 17-pole high-side C channels with 15-pole ones, and you can see it, that arm over there. It's powered by a rack and pinion mechanism using a servo. So essentially what that concept is it's going to, when you go for the submersible area in the center, the randomized samples in the center, you have to try to get them out. And you can either put them in baskets or you can take them to the observation zone and have clips attached to it, etc., etc. So essentially what this mechanism does is it pushes against one of the samples and then a clamp comes over it and then picks it up, and then there's two options. If it's yellow, then put it in the basket. If it's a line specific, take it to observation zone to get a clip on it. And then we added a sample grabber with a sample in it at the moment. It's this one right there. So essentially what it does is, that mechanism is mainly for like when you have to get the specimen off the 1 foot high wall onto the red or blue color bars and clip it on. And then the slides are mainly for gaining height on those bars, and you can see these 1-pole high side U channels, therefore hanging on the lower rung, and then we're going to use this back linear slide to go for the higher rung and pull the rest of the bots up. So that's just a summary of our robot. And now on to, also this is the CAD model of the grabber that we're going to use for the samples and specimens. Now on to rice FTCs.
That's a pretty cool idea actually, but what we have CADed is not fully finished. It's only the extension mechanism, and it's just the extension mechanism and the drivetrain. So our drivetrain is the Govilda Strafer kit, but we are further to going to change it, making some modifications and making a parallel drivetrain, so it's more efficient and faster. And our linear slides actually have been tilted so that they can go at a 15 degrees angle higher up to the baskets, and that's what we're trying to prioritize. And we have little rungs near the linear slides that will let us hang on the lowest end. And we have these two 11-hole pieces, which we will also attach a rubber band mechanism, which isn't actually attached in this CAD file, but we will attach it on our real robot with this powered by a servo, so it can further extend the linear slide, which will go to the higher basket without having the issue of the height limitation.
So essentially your mechanism, it's more like a linear actuator, but instead of it being motor powered, it is servo powered, right?
Yeah.
That's a neat design. Okay, so now we're going to talk about ways that we will do some weight optimization for our robots.
A weight optimization method in our robot this year will be attained in quite a few ways actually. Since last year we had the issue of hanging because of all the motors, which actually bring a lot more weight than you think. We are increasing the use of servos this year. Since, as I said earlier in our CAD model from Onshape, we're going to use the use of more servos. This will actually reduce all the weight inside the robot and make it lighter. The reason weight optimization is important in this season's game is mainly for the drivetrain and the hang mechanism. Because if you are gonna pull up the robot, it should be light and not heavy. And for the drivetrain, lighter drivetrains will increase the speed and acceleration to the robot.
Okay, so the way that we're gonna tackle the weight optimization, by the way, that was a very good idea that you brought up, the replacement of motors with more servos. So how we're gonna tackle this is, we're gonna try to keep the motors to a minimum. remove motors where they're not needed, like in our CAD model where we had those two slides at the front. We're probably going to have them interconnected, meaning that both of them are connected and one of them will be motorless, so that we remove one motor. So in total, our final product would have like 6 motors, which if we use a high RPM motor for our slides, then it should be good enough. And like Ayush said earlier, we shouldn't have too much motors, and where we can, we should replace the motors with servos. So our mechanism also has quite some servos, so that, you know, it's not highly motorized, it's more servoed.
Those are some pretty cool ideas, as Aditya said. But now we're going to talk about our outreach plan from personally our team and Aditya's team. So actually, this season we planned over the summer and already have quite a few events going on. Firstly, we have weekly blogs talking about our team's personal progress and updates about first in the season right now. And also we've had a shadowing expo where any people who are interested in robotics who might have not have gotten accepted into our team can come to practices and actually learn how we practice as a team and learn more about robotics. And we've also had our Python workshop and Java workshop where we displayed the skills, and we also had some fun blickets at the end, so our attendees can have some fun and brush up their concepts. And in the future, in a week, we're gonna have a CAD class hosted by me, where I'm gonna talk about all the basics of CAD. And if you were interested in joining this workshop, please check our social media programs, which will be in the description below. Also, right now, this is going on, we're having our podcast, and we're gonna have future episodes with more attendees and alumni like Plano West FTC members. And some of the FTC events which are planning for the future is the mentoring of the Rice, FLL, and McKinney STEM Center FLL teams. And also we talked about the Toyota Inspires. We talked to a student which came from Japan, meaning it was an international outreach, and we talked about more about what FIRST is and how to get more involved. And we're also going to have a coding competition and CAD competition. Now, let's hear about your outreach.
I actually remember this CAD model. We used this in a robot last year. It's pretty nice, playing it in the flyer. So essentially, what we were thinking, well, so far we've gotten 3 sponsors. One of our outreach members, he is very dedicated in getting the sponsors. And last year, one of the issues with getting sponsors was that if we emailed, like when we started emailing for sponsors, we started emailing late September, early October. And in that period, not many people were willing to give us sponsorships because it was too late in the season. So we're trying to get as many sponsors now as possible. And so we're also trying to get some events happening. Like I talked with our Jasper president about 2 ideas. One of them was, there's this fall event in Frisco. I don't know if you've been there before, but it's like outdoor and there's these booths outside. And I think many medical centers go there. They do their own outreach events, of course. But I was thinking we could do something like that. And one of the events that happened in the city during the fall and set up a booth. We have to inquire about that first, but that's one idea that I shared with our Jasper president. And another idea that we had was last year actually, the Academy High School, their FRC team, which is one level above FTC, their team went to the Plano Balloon Festival and performed an outreach event there, which was pretty neat. And so that was another idea that we had, and we might invite some other FTC teams like Ravenclaw to join us at that event.
Also, on the note about sponsorships and mentors, we have gained 2 sponsorships in total from the PISD Academic Center, which sponsor all PISD teams like Jasper and Plano West, and also Texas Instruments have generously sponsored us. And in addition to that, we've gotten a lot of generous parent donors that decide to donate to us. And about mentorships, currently we're going to get mentorship from Area 52, which is a private Plano team, Rust in Peace and Free of Charge, which are the two Plano West teams, the Jasper Robotics teams, which he's in, which is going to be pretty cool. We're also going to be mentored from Technical Difficulties, which is another private team, and the Flowerman High School team to help us with CAD models.
Yeah. So we're gonna also be talking with the other Plano ISD teams. I spoke this Friday after school in Jasper to one of the Area 52 members. He was pretty interested in mentoring us, and we're gonna get mentorships from Area 52. We're also gonna be mentored by Plano West, hopefully. Their teams, their two teams. And they're coming to our next episode, so stay tuned, subscribe to us, and you'll be able to see the full wolf pack. And now on to game strategy. So this is the field. This is a picture of the field that's in the official FTC game manual for this season. So essentially, what our team was thinking on our second meeting when this video was released and we watched it in school, we were deciding that what we were going to do for autumn, like not in depth for autumn because we shouldn't be focusing on that right now, but like what we might do in autumn. So we were saying that, we are going to, what we have in our claw, if it's a sample or a specimen, we might hang a specimen on the bar, or we might put a sample in the basket. And I think we should have two types of codes. One for when we're closer to the baskets, and one when we're closer to the observation zone. If we're closer to the observation zone, we should have a code where we take the specimen and put it onto one of the bars. And if we're closer to the baskets, we should have a code that puts the sample into the baskets. This is beneficial because it reduces the confusion between the two autons, and that way two autonomous programs can run simultaneously when we are in the match, because as the full video says, two teams are on one alliance team. So one's going to be right here and one's going to be right there. So there's going to be space between them, but so there shouldn't be confusion. Also, once we put it in the baskets or in the bars, we're planning on taking the samples, which are positioned along these taped markers, and we're thinking about pushing that into the observation zone. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to push or contain more than one sample at once, so it's going to be pretty lengthy to push all of them into the observation zone. This is beneficial to us because once each of them are in, we have 3 specimens that are ready to be hanged on there, and also there's going to be 3 samples on the team player's side, human player's side, and they'll be able to make those samples as well, specimens as well. And that's our autumn period, and then in Teliop, of course, we're just going to score as many points as possible, get some samples from the submersible zone, and if the sample is yellow, it goes into the basket. And if the sample is align specific, then we put in observation zone. If we actually pick up our other lenses, sample, I'm sure we're not allowed to do that, so we shouldn't go for the other team's samples. But that's basically what we're going to do. And then we're going to try to go for the higher rung. If not possible, then we're going to stick to going for the lower rung at least, hanging off the lower rung. Because that is a decent amount of points. 15 points is quite a lot. And on to Rice FTC's team.
So we've discussed a lot of similar ideas, like Aditya's, which are pretty interesting to be honest. But during our autonomous period, we want to use this application called Roadrunner, which is an autonomous application that makes precise turns using PID algorithms. And we haven't implemented it last year since we didn't have enough sponsored mentors to help us on it. But since we have a lot of experienced mentors that have used Roadrunner in the past, they'll help us on that. But during the autonomous period, we want to start a robot on one of these walls and get the blue taped alliance-specific samples, which we will get, and we will most likely put them into the baskets, which are on each corner, which is our alliance-specific one, And with any time remaining, since it's 30 seconds, we will try to load up one more sample on a robot from the human player, because human players can go in this zone and the robot can't go in it, but the human player could put different samples into that zone so that the robot can get it. And during our tele-up period, like how I said earlier, we're going to prioritize going to the high basket with our aligned-specific samples, and we will score as many as possible during our cycles. And during our hang period, like Aditya said, we will probably prioritize low ascent since it's easier to build and takes less time. And that's
To add on to the autonomous period, we're gonna try to use the odometry pods because we have odometry pods from last year. We're gonna reuse them this year, and it's really gonna help because odometry pods, go build products. Essentially, what they do is they turn this entire field into an X and Y coordinate grid from where the robot starts. So let's say the robot starts here in that scan thing over there. That's plot 0, 0 from where the odometry pod is. The robot is going to use that information and it's going to be like, oh, go to 2, 2, which let's say in this scenario is the closest tape align specific sample to the submersible. So we could use that information and it will precisely push it into the observation zone or put it into the batch state. So I think what your team should do this year is they should invest in some odometry pods using that sponsorship money that you guys have gotten so far in those donations, because it's going to be very beneficial, especially since you guys are planning on using Roadrunner, which is extremely fast and will decrease the amount of time it takes to knock on and will allow you guys to do much more.
So thank you for viewing our episode of the Wolfpack podcast, and stay tuned for future episodes where we will guarantee have Plano West members on our podcast. And please follow our social media platforms, which we will post in our description of this video. And this is our email right here, Robotics. And if you have any questions or anything which you want to say to us, please feel free to email us.
Also, another way you can contact us is you can scan this QR code. I'll probably paste this slideshow into the description, and you can just scan this QR code, and there's a Google form in that QR code attached to it, where you can post your own questions in there. And in our next episode, if you have any questions posted there, we'll try to respond to your questions in our next episode. And you can choose to be anonymous, or you can choose to have your name written with your question. And also, if you have any outreach requests for us, feel free to also put that down in the Go form. There's a section for that. So that, let's say you want to see us in a specific event inside of the DFW area, then we can try to see the logistics of that, see if we're able to do that, and we can probably see you at that event.
Like Aditya said, we are very open for outreach requests
Yes.
and anything that you guys would want, because if there's any open opportunity, like our team, when we were on Rice Raven Club last year, so I'm an 8th grader and he's a 9th grader right now, we were together. We actually talked at a Nest Scouts hackathon, and we didn't personally know about this hackathon. Someone reached out to us saying that we should take this opportunity to speak, and we got to speak to a lot of these girls at a hackathon, which is really fun.
Yeah, and we got to tell them about FIRST and FTC. It's a very good opportunity. If you want to see us there, then you can always put in the form, whatever you want, and we will be there. And if you want, you can also, and we'll probably have the other West teams and Jasper teams come as well. Yeah, so that's it for today's episode. Please support our channels and fill out the Google form. And there's a section in the Google form where you can put your personal email. So in that section, you put your personal email and we can try to address your question directly as well as putting it in the video. And also we might create a server in Discord or Google Chats where we can address your questions for the season. Let's say you're a first-time FTC team and you guys have any questions. You guys can reach out to us and we can respond. And we might make that server as well. Yeah. So thank you for watching and we'll see you next episode.